Stalled progress on a U.S.-China trade deal. The threat of new tariffs coming Friday. Trump is playing hardball. But what's really at stake? Welcome back to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Friday's coming, and you know what that means here at China Uncensored. It's Friday! Friday! Gotta get down on Friday. If you'd like to feel old, that song came out 8 years ago. Anyway, this Friday, you know who might not be partying, yeah? See, for 5 months, U.S. and Chinese negotiators have been trying to work out a big trade deal. Back in December, President Trump had said he would raise tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods on March 1st. He extended that deadline and then kept extending it. So a trade deal could be made. But on Sunday, President Trump said enough is enough. Well, he tweeted enough is enough.
For 10 months, China has been paying tariffs to the USA of 25% on $50 billion of high tech and 10% on $200 billion of other goods. The 10% will go up to 25% on Friday.
Thank goodness Twitter allows up to 240 characters now. So this Friday, 2 days from now, is the deadline. And maybe he means it this time.
The trade deal with China continues, but too slowly as they attempt to renegotiate. No.
This is a change of tone from early April, when Trump met with Vice Premier Liu He in the Oval Office. At that time, it seemed like things were going well.
We are rounding the turn. We'll see what happens. We have a ways to go, but not very far. We've made a lot of progress.
The Chinese vice premier agreed there was progress and tried to butter up the president a little by praising his direct involvement in the negotiations.
Because of your direct involvement, we do have great progress. Although we still have some remainings, but I think hopefully, we get a good result.
Oh, Liu He, flattery will get you everywhere. Except maybe to a trade agreement. So why have the trade negotiations hit a speed bump since then? On Monday, U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, who have been leading the trade talks, said that Chinese officials had been reneging on previous commitments, and they confirmed that U.S. tariffs would be raised on Friday. According to Lighthizer, Chinese officials were trying to make substantial last-minute changes to the agreement. What? Who could have seen this coming? Well, a lot of people, actually. Bloomberg columnist and finance professor Noah Smith says that for China to make good on its promise to reduce its $400 billion a year trade surplus with the U.S., it would have to make big sacrifices. It seems improbable that China will follow through on this big trade war concession, Smith argues. Chances are high that it turns out to be a red herring. That's because following through on any kind of structural reform would hurt China's economic growth too much. But of course, not signing a trade deal would also hurt China's economic growth. That could be why last Friday, Trump suggested that the U.S. would be just fine without a deal.
We'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks, but we're getting close to a very historic, monumental deal, and if it doesn't happen, we'll be fine too, maybe even better.
One reason the U.S. could be better off holding out for now is that these negotiations are a unique chance to reset America's relationship with China. That's what hedge fund manager Kyle Bass recently told CNBC. And there's good reason to listen to Bass. He's one of the few people who correctly predicted the subprime meltdown that sparked the 2008 financial crisis. He says reducing America's $400 billion trade deficit with China is small potatoes compared to the big play, forcing China to stop stealing American technology.
With China, our real issue is forced technology transfer, it's intellectual property theft, it's subversive industrial policies that, let's say, circumvent WTO rules. It's basically the way the Chinese lie, cheat, and steal their way through our economy.
Bass says that for the trade deal to be meaningful, it's got to have teeth, like sanctions on China if their promises turn up empty.
It's really important for this new agreement, whatever it is, to be measurable and punishable.
And that's one of the sticking points with the current deal, which the Chinese officials tried to renege on. But If you ask former White House Chief Strategist Steve Bannon, the U.S. has to demand that the Chinese regime make structural reforms that will transform China into the kind of free market system that China promised to be so many years ago. And if we can't get that from the trade deal, we shouldn't sign it at all.
I think we ought to walk away from this right now. We ought to start playing hardball. We ought to start playing smash mouth.
Yeah, we ought to start playing Smash Mouth.
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play.
If you'd really like to feel old, that song came out 20 years ago. What's that, Shelley? I see. Steve Bannon is not a fan of late 90s rock music, he just meant aggressive and confrontational. That makes more sense, I guess. Anyway, Trump is getting more aggressive and confrontational. His tweets on Sunday were a warning that things are moving too slowly and that Chinese negotiators had better not get overconfident or drag things out. It's time to make a deal, or no deal, if they want to play it like that. And he's gotten support from some unexpected sources, like Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer, who tweeted that Trump should hang tough on China. Meanwhile, Chinese officials have agreed to resume trade talks Thursday and Friday, so there's a possibility that tariffs might not go into effect on Friday after all. So what do you think about Trump's threat to slap China with more tariffs? Leave your comments below. And while you're still here, it's time for me to answer another question from a fan who supports China Uncensored with $1 or more per episode through the crowdfunding website Patreon. J.R. Harrison asks, who are you interviewing this year for the anniversary of the TS massacre? Is it going to be Fang Zheng again? Thanks for your question. Last year during the Oslo Freedom Forum, I interviewed Fang Zheng, a Tiananmen Square student protester who was run over by a tank. This year I have a new guest lined up, Zhou Fengsuo. After participating in the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests and surviving the massacre, Chinese authorities labeled him as number 5 on their most wanted list. They arrested him and threw him into a re-education camp. Now, he's in the US and fighting to make sure Tiananmen Square gets remembered. I think you're going to love this interview. It'll come out on June 3rd. And thank you to everyone who supports China Uncensored on Patreon. I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.